Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene and 8 of her Republican colleagues are calling for a full investigation into Dr. Fauci's agency, the NIAID, and their funding to the Wuhan lab before the CCP virus outbreak. And they want Fauci's salary reduced to $0. NTD's Steve Lance brings us more from Washington.
The Fire Fauci Act appears to be gaining steam in the House. Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene introduced the bill and says that the support from her colleagues to sponsor the bill has since doubled. She says that Fauci's emails have opened more eyes to Fauci's missteps during the pandemic.
You see, Dr. Fauci was not elected by the American people. He was not chosen to guide our economy. He was not chosen to rule over parents and their children's education.
The bill highlights the fact that Dr. Fauci is the highest paid employee in the federal government, with a higher salary than the President of the United States. The bill also suggests that Dr. Fauci has been giving contradictory information when it comes to the pandemic. Congressman Mo Brooks, who is running for United States Senate in Alabama, is a co-sponsor of the Fire Fauci Act. He said that there were too many times Fauci had to backtrack on his words.
In February of 2020, Fauci declared there was little effectiveness to wearing masks. Yet, in January of 2021, Fauci declared that double masking was, quote, common sense, end quote, and, quote, likely more effective, end quote. Dr. Fauci is consistent in just one thing, and that is inconsistency.
In an interview after the press conference, Congresswoman Greene told us that she thought more lives could have been saved if the use of hydroxychloroquine had not been politicized.
He needs to be held accountable for is he was telling people that hydroxychloroquine did not work and that scientific studies did not back it up, when there were doctors doing everything they could to call attention to the fact that they were saving lives.
The Congresswoman is also concerned her Democrat colleagues lack the tenacity to hold China accountable for their lack of transparency when it comes to the CCP virus.
Something we can come together on, and that's holding people accountable and getting the truth out on such a terrible thing that's hurt all of us. Then what can we come together on?
Although Congresswoman Greene's bill calls attention to the way Dr. Fauci handled the pandemic, a big part of her message was also how China has handled the virus. Steve Lance, NTD News, Washington, D.C.
Taiwan reported the largest incursion by Chinese military jets. At the same time, a U.S. Navy carrier group is doing exercises in the South China Sea, and the U.S. is doing away with a cap on South Korea's ballistic missiles. NTD's Tiffany Meyer brings us more.
Chinese military jets are patrolling Taiwan on an unprecedented scale. This, according to the island's Air Force. On Tuesday, an official report from Taiwan outlined air activity inside the island's Southwestern Air Defense Identification Zone, called the ADIZ. The information shows that China's Air Force flew almost 30 military jets into Taiwan's airspace. Some even flew from the southwestern zone to southeastern ADIZ zone before turning around. This marks the largest jet fleet to enter Taiwan since last September. That's when the Taiwanese military first released reports about Chinese military jet activity in its air defense zone. Data released says the latest fleet involved 2 slow military aircraft alongside fighter jets and bombers. But in past flyovers, China's military only sent out its Y-8. It's an anti-submarine aircraft mainly used for maritime patrol and general transport. Taiwan's Defense Department responded quickly, sending out air patrol forces, radio warnings, and air defense missiles. A U.S. aircraft carrier group has entered the South China Sea as part of a routine mission, the U.S. Navy said on Tuesday. Supercarrier USS Ronald Reagan leads the group. This is the carrier group's first time in the South China Sea this year. The U.S. Navy said while in the South China Sea, the strike group is conducting maritime security operations, which include flight operations with fixed and rotatory wing aircraft, maritime strike exercises, and coordinated tactical training between surface and air units. They added that carrier operations in the South China Sea are part of the U.S. Navy's routine presence in the Indo-Pacific. The Navy statement also said the move is to uphold U.S. alliances with regional allies and to demonstrate U.S. Navy's ability to quickly respond to any contingency across the region. U.S. warships have passed through the South China Sea more frequently in recent years. This as the Chinese Communist Party, or CCP, is building more artificial islands and air bases in the area. The U.S.'s move is likely a show of force against Beijing's unlawful territorial claims there. The U.S. is removing an almost decade-long range limit on South Korea's ballistic missiles. This means the country can now build missiles that can reach a number of cities in North China, including Beijing. This comes amid the Chinese regime's expansion of its nuclear capabilities, and after the U.S. reinforced its alliance with South Korea in a meeting last month. So far, Beijing has not protested against the move. From now on, South Korea can build missiles without any limits on range, up from a previous 500-mile cap. Having more well-armed allies could prove to be useful for the U.S., particularly as chatter of military conflict increased recently. The U.S. had such range limits on South Korea since 1979. At the time, the limit was around 110 miles. In 2001, the U.S. increased the cap to about 185 miles. And upped it again in 2012 to 500 miles. Even with the freedom to build missiles, South Korea is unlikely to make nuclear ones. That's because the country has signed onto the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. It's an international treaty that limits nuclear armament.
A Fox News reporter is accusing the company she works for of suppressing information from their viewers and crafting biased narratives. She's now been suspended. NTD's Miguel Moreno has that story.
Fox 26 reporter Ivory Hecker went out on a limb during this Monday live shot in Montgomery County, Texas.
Fox Corp has been muzzling me to keep certain information from you, the viewers, and from what I'm gathering, I am not the only reporter being subjected to this.
A day later, Project Veritas published an interview with the reporter who says she's doing this because viewers are being deceived. Included was audio Hecker says she recorded of her directors.
Fox came at my throat for standing up against censorship.
In this video, she asked Dr. Joseph Varon from United Memorial Medical Center about using hydroxychloroquine to treat COVID-19 patients, a question Hecker says she wasn't supposed to ask.
We have used it. I mean, we know that it's a drug that has been politicized up to the wazoo. We've used it. We use it with good success.
That was a story, by the way, that Susan and Lee sent me there to cover the COVID treatments at that hospital. I just wasn't supposed to ask that question.
You need to cease and desist posting about hydroxychloroquine. In my opinion, you failed as a reporter.
The Fox 26 assistant director later says this is not just about the viewers. It's about what our CEO reads. We contacted Fox 26 Houston about what happened, but they haven't gotten back to us. Hecker cited other examples of what she felt was wrong at the company. According to Project Veritas, she's been suspended from the station. This is the second Fox News reporter to publicly oppose the direction of their newsrooms this year. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo launching a new organization to support Republican candidates in the 2022 midterm elections. Pompeo says the new political group Champion American Values PAC aims to protect American values and help Republicans take back majorities in the U.S. House and Senate, as well as governorships and state legislatures across America. He says he intends to stay in the fight where he says America's foundational ideas are under attack more than ever before. Pompeo has been traveling to several states and addressing key political issues in recent months. He's seen as a potential 2024 contender. An art exhibit in Plano, Texas offers viewers a message of hope, but it's bittersweet. The stories told reveal heartbreaking human rights abuses still happening in China today.
The Zhen Shen Yun, or Truthfulness, Compassion, and Forbearance art exhibit opened on June 2nd and will be on display until July 2nd at the Courtyard Theater in Plano, Texas. The exhibit has been featured in over 900 cities and 50 countries around the world, receiving numerous proclamations and letters of support. It offers unique insight into the spiritual discipline Falun Gong, as well as the ongoing human rights crisis happening in China. The works mainly come from Chinese artists. Many portray the brutal persecutions the artists have endured, often highlighting themes like quiet inner strength in the face of injustice. The art exhibit features award-winning pieces from NTD's International Figure Painting Competition. Realistic oil paintings and Chinese watercolor pieces are also showcased. State representatives and council members from Texas make up just a few of the exhibit's most recent guests. Here's what they had to say.
So the art is really profound. It's a profound expression of the horrors of communist China and their forced organ harvesting, and it's a very, very powerful exhibit. Very powerful.
Councilman Young Sung said that the exhibition reminded him of a quote by Aristotle.
Educating mind without educating heart is no education at all. So it's education is important, not just general education. Art education has a great connection with the human mind, human soul, and the human spirit.
Some audience members were moved to tears. One of the featured artists stated that an artist displays his true self through his artwork. If the artist is a good person, filled with pure and kind thoughts, then his works will reflect the same positivity to an audience. Great artwork has an energy that can benefit people. This is our intention.
Bring tissues, okay, because this exhibition will get to your heart. That's how paintings, how artwork goes. It goes to the heart of you when you see what people are expressing and recognize the truth of it.
It is outstanding. I really didn't know what to expect. I read about it, but I really didn't know what to expect, and it's very touching. The artwork is beautiful, and of course the stories on it. It kind of brings you to tears because you hear about it, but when you see the picture, they're so real.
The exhibit is held in part in recognition of a Texas Senate resolution condemning China's practice of involuntary organ harvesting. Governor Abbott recently signed the measure after it passed in the House. State Representative Matt Shaheen co-sponsored the bill.
Sure, it's really important that the state of Texas take a stand as far as condemning the practice by the Chinese government in the forced organ harvesting of practitioners of Falun Gong and really a lot of faiths and religions that are practiced in China.
According to independent and international investigations, it's believed that the Chinese Communist Party has been harvesting organs from hundreds of thousands of incarcerated people in China, mainly Falun Gong practitioners and other prisoners of conscience. Falun Gong is a spiritual practice based around meditation that China banned over 20 years ago. Thousands of members have been jailed, tortured, or lost their lives since the CCP launched its persecution. The exhibit is free to the public at the Courtyard Theater, Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Don't let YouTube decide what information you get. That's your choice. YouTube is deleting our videos and cuts you off from a source of honest reporting. Make sure you don't lose access to NTD's news content, and take a quick moment to subscribe to our newsletter so no matter what happens here, you'll keep your access to a trustworthy news source.